Hi, this is Rabbi Chaim Kaufman. Welcome to our 131st installment of the Torah portion of the week. We're holding by Parshas Shelach here in Eretz Yisrael. Everyone else outside of Israel being holding by Parshas Baloscha. So you can take a look at that video I have on YouTube that I made last week. So Parshas Shelach is all about the spies. It's all about Moshe Rabbeinu sending out the spies and them speaking badly against the land of Israel. And for that reason, that even though this is the greatest generation in the history of man, and they sent out great men in order to spy out the land to see what was going on, about inhabiting it, etc. And they speak Lashon Hara against the land. So for 40 years, God waits for that generation, generation to die out in order that the Jewish people can go into the land of Israel. So in a certain way, they get lost in the desert. Or not get lost, but they spin their wheels, so to speak, in the desert for 40 years till that generation gets wiped out and they die. And then they're allowed into the promised land. So I made a video before, take a look at it on my YouTube channel at Rabbi Chaim Kaufman about the sin of the spies and what was going on. But I want to hit a little bit different aspect of this. So the Torah says in the book of Numbers, chapter 13, verse 25. And actually, sorry about that, verse 27. It says they reported, again, chapter 13, verse 27. It says they reported to him and said, "We arrived at the land to which you sent us, and indeed it flows with milk and honey." And this is its fruit. It's tremendous fruit. But there's always a but. Verse 28. But the people who dwell in the land is powerful. Cities are fortified and very great. We saw their offspring of the giants. Amalek dwells in the area of the south. Hittite, Jebusites, Amorites dwell on the mountain. Canaanites dwell by the sea, the banks of the Jordan. And verse 31, the men who ascended with him said, "We cannot ascend to that people, they're too strong for us." They brought forward to the children of Israel an evil report in the land that they had spied out, saying, "The land through which we have passed, spy out, is a land that devours its inhabitants." All the people that we saw, they were huge. We saw the Nephilim, the giants, son of the giants. From among the Nephilim, we were like grasshoppers in our eyes, so we were in their eyes. So they speak Lashon Hara, Jewish people. The spies. These great people end up speaking badly against the land of Israel. So they say over here is very nice. It's a place that flows with milk and honey. Tremendous fruits. But the land is powerful. Cities are fortified. People are giants. So you could look at it in a few different ways. Right? One way to certainly look at it is that they're afraid. Now, it could be they're afraid that maybe they lose merit, through things that they may have done where they won't be able to overpower them. But they've gone through all these miracles. Miracles in the desert, miracles in Egypt, miracles of the manna. So in a certain way, they definitely had a lack of belief, a lack of faith. And God wanted to build up their faith. And if they would have been on the level God wanted them to be, they would have gone straight into the promised land. They would have gone straight into the land of Israel. Which lends me to the following question. They themselves, 100%, didn't think maybe they were worthy to go in. That they were able to overcome them. There's a lack of faith. Right? Simply we'll say, even at their level, extremely high level, we're talking about a lack of faith. So they make one comment, and they say it's a land flowing with milk and honey. On the other hand, they said we can't overcome it, can't overcome the people there. Not only that, they're surrounded on all sides. So, people have come to the land. People have come to Israel. They remark about the beauty. They remark about the history. They remark about the spirituality. You can't get many years being outside the land, and living there. You don't get the same learning, the same atmosphere you have in Israel. So shouldn't every Jew live in Israel? Well, it depends. It depends on the circumstances. My Rebbe holds very strong that a person wants to come and live in Israel. You got to figure out what you're going to do for Parnasa. You have to have a plan. You have to have sort of a working plan. How are you going to make a living? All right, one of the harder things to do here in Israel. So we're going to make a living, no question. That being said, that's one reason you wouldn't have an obligation to live here. Second reason could be you got family obligations. Maybe the learning is better where you live than in Israel, right? It certainly could be. Even though greatest learning, I don't think there's any question. I don't think anyone would disagree, certainly in the land of Israel. And most people, became Torah giants, certainly have got their education here, right? They certainly learned here. There are very few that are born and bred in one country and stayed there the majority of their life and didn't have the many years of learning in Israel. That's very rare. Very rare to find such a thing. So a person may not have an obligation to come here because they have family issues. Can't leave the parents. They have livelihood there. As we mentioned before, livelihood in Israel is not easy. Right? Certainly not easy. Maybe learning's better. Maybe it's hard to find a place to learn where they're going to get exactly what they need. Maybe it's better outside the land of Israel. There are a number of factors. There are a number of factors why someone may not live in the land of Israel. Right? So the mitzvah to live in the land of Israel, is a mitzvah if you can do it. If you have other factors you can't do it, okay. You're exempt. I heard once, someone say, well, Vilna Gaon wasn't as great as he could have been had he lived in the land of Israel. He's not a great rabbi, same thing. I want to live in the land of Israel. Well, Vilna Gaon tried to get here, but, a lot of things stopped him. So he thought it was a sign from heaven that he wasn't supposed to come here. A lot of his students came here. Okay, but not everyone makes it, so it would be a Torah obligation to come here. Then you have, so many people outside the land not fulfilling this command. But my question, if a person has a legitimate excuse, they have a legitimate excuse why they don't come to live in the land of Israel. I have no question. Right? I'm not going to sit there and rag on them, like I could. But what about the people who don't even give it a second thought? We're not talking about Parnasa issues or livelihood issues. We're not talking about learning, parents, family. These are all legitimate reasons why a person doesn't come here. But what about the vast majority don't come because they're not interested in coming? Someone once told me that when the Messiah comes, he said, I don't want to go to Israel. I said, why not? So he said, it's cold, drafty. Right, one of the buildings like the Flintstones made out of stone. Right, not the greatest heating systems. Expensive to heat a whole house. So the person in the winter is usually cold. So I told the person, when the Messiah comes, I don't think you're going to worry about the cold. You wear an extra sweater. So that, but this, that, like, person kept giving excuses. So finally I said, I don't understand. If you're alive when the Messiah comes, and you acknowledge, just like the whole world will acknowledge, he is the Messiah. Everyone's going to be doing God's will. So I said, if everyone's going to be doing God's will, you're not going to be worried if it's a little bit cold. You're not going to care. This person kept going on and on. I said, you don't understand. If the Messiah is here, you're not going to care. Right? It's not going to matter. So my Rebbe's father said, it's better to be a Jew outside the land of Israel, wanting to come to live in the land of Israel, than a Jew in the land of Israel, thinking he's got greener pastures, and thinking it's better to live outside of Israel. So, maybe this will be my Zionist kick over here. So, as some people know, I've been here 23 out of the last 26 years, or 27 years. Right, whatever it is, at a 3-year hiatus. But, wouldn't be half the person I was if I wasn't here. You're going to say, well, if you lived in Lakewood, you lived in other strong Jewish communities, well, how do you know what you would have been? But what's the difference? What's the difference? So if a person walks down in the heart of Jerusalem, they go to the Koso, they go to the Western Wall, they go to Kever Rachel, where Rachel Imenu is buried, go to Hebron, go to other places of Jewish historical significance. You're surrounded by Jews, also by Arabs. But there's no question why is it a better place to live? Because people live in their own communities. One reason, you're surrounded by like-minded people. You can live in what we call a ghetto. I had someone come visit once, where I was living out where I am now, and they looked around. They were secular, obviously. And they look around, they see people, black hats, coats, long coats, short coats. And they look around, they say, wow, this is like a ghetto. So I smiled, I said, I know, it's great, isn't it? They were like, get me out of here, it was too much. But see, when you're surrounded by like-minded people, and they're going in the right direction, and it's all about learning, it's all about reaching higher spiritual plateaus. Just the air itself, when you sniff it in this country, makes a person wise. Because a person living outside the land, you got to make the best of what you have there. You got to be an island into of yourself. Because you're surrounded by that culture. That culture is antithetical to Torah in so many ways. So you have to be really, really, really strong. So you say, well, in Israel you have to be strong also. You do, to a certain extent. You know what the reality is that even if you have all these fast food restaurants and all the garbage that America brings here, a person can still be steeped in holiness, without being around it. Yeah, you might have to go to government offices here and there. You have to do other things. Okay. There wasn't the same thing everywhere else. The only difference is, we're all Jews here, for the most part. So when families together, okay, you might say a lot of people don't get along, and there are other issues living in the land, not just with the Arabs. But my question is, we're talking about the spies speaking about the land. They say the land is great, but we're afraid of these people. I was telling someone earlier about different things going on, building, causing, it's going to cause traffic, other things. And I said, I want you to keep in mind one thing. Complaining is not going to do anything. Because once they made a decision, it's not going to change. We're not living in a democracy. We're certainly not living in a democracy here. Even though it's the only democracy in the Middle East, but it's really not a democracy. Governments will do what they want to do. It doesn't matter. Right? Essentially, it doesn't matter. Anyone who's lived here for any amount of time knows what I'm speaking about. But the idea, can you become the same person in either place? So my experience, for what it's worth, my answer is no. There's something about the land. There's something about the Kedusha of the land. So, someone told me many years ago, but we're still in exile. You're right. Walk downtown Jerusalem. You'll see you're in exile. Right? I don't think there's any question. Regardless, it's a different atmosphere. People speaking the Hebrew language, maybe abusing the Hebrew language. Very well could be. But you feel like it's home. Anywhere else, you're a guest. And if you don't realize that you're a guest, where you are, they'll make you feel like a guest. Make you feel like you're not wanted. So wherever we are, we have to uphold the standard of the Torah as best as possible. But being in exile comes at a price. And the price is a very severe one. Because if a person lives in a strong community, this Torah, this kashrus, there is all the good things. Yeshivas, girls' schools, kosher food, kosher restaurants. You're not lacking anything. You don't feel like you're lacking anything. Because you're living in a city that's built up by Torah. If you live in a smaller place where there's not so much Torah, so you feel stronger. You understand what type of society you're in. But when you live in a strong community, you're living in a strong community, let's say in New York, New Jersey, any of these strong communities, you sometimes forget, or probably a lot forget, of where you are. You could say, well, a person lives in Brooklyn, see all kinds of different people that aren't Jews. What are you going to tell me? You forget where you are? Someone once told me that, in a certain area in Brooklyn, you walk down the street, you feel like you're in Yerushalayim. You feel like you're in Jerusalem. I said, but you're in Brooklyn. Take a look, the buildings. I know what they meant. It's very Jewish. It's very ultra-Orthodox. Judaic stores, pizza places, yeshivas, girls' schools. There's a lot going on. That's good. So I would ask the question, if there's so much good going on, then what are you missing? You feel the bitterness of exile? If the Messiah would come right now, and there's an announcement, okay, all Jews, whoever survives, planes are loading up, going to Israel. How many people be running to the planes? Not because they're late. How many people will be absolutely whistling Dixie and being so excited because we're going back to our land? Going back to the land that God promised Avraham, Yitzhak, Yaakov. And doing God's will in the land. So I think it would be a moot point. Because everyone's going to realize the Messiah is who he is and what happened. And, free will sort of be taken away now. Because of all the miracles. But it has to be someone who's holding somewhere. Some Jew off the street, if they survive, and there's an announcement that they're going to Israel, somehow if they survive, not so sure they're going to be so ecstatic to go there. There are plenty of American Jews never been here. Kids have never been here. No connection to the land. Well, if you don't have a connection to the land or the history, you will give that land back because it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean much. But it's an amazing thing. Ask anybody who's experienced it. When you walk in the footsteps of Tanakh, of where events happened, it's a different type of thing. It's not the same, as being in Borough Park. Or walking down that street where you feel like you're in Yerushalayim. You're not in Yerushalayim. You're not in the Holy City. You make the best where you are. You have to educate your kids. You have to live in a strong community. There are benefits, a lot of benefits. There are benefits living in a smaller community, whatever, it's not the point. Point is to realize there's exile. In the pain of exile. The pain of what it means not to have a Beis HaMikdash. Not to have a temple. The pain of not being able to bring sacrifices. Not being able to be totally free. Meaning, by keeping Torah mitzvahs, that everybody's doing it. And not what goes on. Yeah, there are a lot of negative things that go on here, no question. Government, other things. It's hard. But where are the people that really miss the land? Those are the people who lived here before. Anyone who's never lived here, probably many secular Jews, if they've even been here, if you were to say, what would happen if the land was taken over by the Arabs? How devastated would you be? Some people would be actually devastated. Most people don't have a connection to the land. That's why the fight of the Western Wall, by these women of the wall, so to speak, want to have their own place in order to read Torah and do other things. The Reform movement's not even one of the top 5 things on their agenda. Most Reformed Jews have no idea what's going on here. With that. They don't have any connection. Take an interview of 100 Reformed Jews. You say, how badly does it bother you what's going on in the Western Wall with the women of the wall and what they do? Most of them don't even know what they are, what they do, what they stand for. The 10 people they get to show up every month's a joke. They just want to show that we want to have a part of things. You can't just push us around. We bring a lot of money to Israel. Plant trees. What? You're not going to give us a part? You're going to push us out? You're going to say it's Orthodoxy or nothing? So how many of them have a true connection? None. I shouldn't say none. Very few. But see, even by the Orthodox, I'm not talking about anti-Zionists. Even amongst the Orthodox, you don't hear so much about Israel. So when I was there for 3 years, it was disheartening. So you can say, wow, I know you're such a Zionist. I'm not such a Zionist. Even though I've lived here most of my life. It's what Israel represents, what it brings to the table, what it does for families. Right? There are many young couples come here, live for a number of years, and then go back. It adds a lot. But again, I give credit to people that come and they leave their families behind. Right? A person's not such a connection to their family or whatever, not such a big deal. Someone whose family is, is a religious family, and they have religious siblings, all things being equal, they get along very well, and they come and they live here, and most of the family doesn't. It's a hard thing. You miss a lot of family gatherings, bar mitzvahs, weddings. That's tremendous self-sacrifice. But they got the point. They understand what it is to live here. What the benefits are. So I would say in general, Israel is the best place for a Jew to be. Depends who it is though. When I tell a fresh convert to come live here, never. When I tell them to live in Brooklyn, never. Why? Community's too strong. If a person's holding there, it's one thing. If they're not holding there, it's very hard. Very, very hard. Then someone told me, but don't you believe Israel's the best place to live? Yeah, spiritually. But you have to be holding somewhere. Because if you're not holding there, you'll get spit out. You have all kinds of problems with your kids, and education, navigating the system. Not easy. Right? It's one of the things Talmud tells us that's acquired with great difficulty. Is living in Israel. It's hard. I don't think there's any question. Meaningful? It's unbelievable. You walk where the patriarchs walked. You suck up the air. The holy air changes a person. If they're in tune with what they need to do. Because the reality is, a lot of people who come to make Aliyah today are Orthodox Jews. The ones that are coming. Not all of them, obviously. You have some secular Jews coming here. But to me, it's amazing because most of them don't have any connection here. Very little. The fact they want to come and live here, it's a big thing. So it's a little bit different video than I'm sure most people expected. But my question is that the spies come out and say it's a land flowing to milk and honey. But it's hard. How are we going to overcome them? The giants. Fortified cities. But my question is, even in the Orthodox communities, all around the world, how much do the individuals think about living in the land? So simple answer is too busy raising their families, trying to survive like everyone else. True. Where's the idealism? Where's my wanting to live there? All things being equal, if you ask most people, if livelihood wasn't an issue, and let's say family wasn't an issue, how quickly would you go? You can say, really, you think the statistics is low? Yes. Because it's not on people's radar. They get absorbed into this galus mentality, into this, the fact we don't have a temple, right? We're in exile. Even in Israel, we're in exile. But when you're part of a society that's bent on hedonism and anti-Jewish values, okay, a person lives there. It's where they grew up, it's where they are, the language they speak. So they learn to get used to it. But they don't have this inner desire. They don't have this inner desire to want to leave. I'm talking about in a case where they could. And I think the answer is very simple. It's because they get dragged in by society. Society makes it very easy to want to stay where you are. You enjoy the benefits. Tremendous benefits. You live in a strong Jewish community. Unbelievable benefits. We mentioned pizza places, Chinese, yeshivas, girls' schools. There's nothing to sneeze at. But do people realize what they're missing? They realize we're missing the Beis HaMikdash. So you're going to say, well, if you live in the land of Israel, you're also missing that. You're right. Got to feel it here as well. But you're with your own people. For better or for worse. Synagogues in every block, different communities. You absorb the atmosphere. Person wants to tell the difference. Told somebody once who was visiting, they wanted to go to Tel Aviv, hang out there, whatever. So I said that when you go there, you're not going to see that much difference between Tel Aviv and where you live now. And in the end, they agreed. They said, wherever I'm going to be, it's going to hang out in Jerusalem, finished. It's a different atmosphere. I'm not saying just by Jerusalem itself. Jerusalem's a holy city. There are plenty of other places a person could go and live, but the atmosphere is different. You feel the difference. You can't tell me it's the same or even somewhat comparable to walking down in Borough Park. No comparison. It's very Jewish. It's very Orthodox. Very good. It's not Eretz Yisrael. It's still part of New York. Very easy to feel the exile there. But when you have all these other amenities, spiritual amenities, you forget you're in exile. Kind of hard to forget today, but in general, you forget you're in exile. You don't know what it means not to have a Beis HaMikdash, right? We don't know. So someone will say, well, can I have a similar spiritual experience if I live in Lakewood? Strong community, no question. You can live in a neighborhood everyone's from. Everyone's Orthodox. Also true. It's a tremendous thing. I'm not coming to belittle it. It is a tremendous thing. It's not the same as being in the land. It's not the same as experiencing what goes on here. It's a totally different atmosphere. So when a person gets lulled into sleep, gets caught up in their consumer society, it's hard to break that mentality. You got to make yourself an island. You got to be super, super strong. But all these things creep in. And by creeping in, it makes a chink in the armor. The spiritual armor. So a person has to have the desire. You have to have the want to know what you're missing. To want to strive higher. So I remember when I lived outside of Israel for 3 years, I kept a lot of the same customs that I did when I was there. You can say, but there's no obligation to, right? But I wanted to remind myself, my family, that, okay, we're here now. I didn't think I was actually coming back, but, we're here now. And it doesn't matter what goes on around us. You're going to say most people don't hold it like that. True. Who's going to hold a Jerusalem custom if you're not living in Jerusalem or the outskirts? True. But I wanted to hold some sort of standard where I wouldn't forget where I came from. That's worth something. But very, very easy to get carried away by society you live in. Very, very easy. So you might say, you think it's possible for everyone to come here? Good. Why not? Plenty of room in the desert. Right? Go down south Beersheba. Miles and miles of land, flat. Nothing there. From the Dead Sea all the way down south, empty. You say, well, if the Messiah comes, where's everyone going to go? Well, whoever survives, there's plenty of room here. But again, why do you want to come here? Right, which is a whole nother thing. If someone comes and they're not religious, it's not worth it for them to come. Now, you've just been speaking for the last 30 minutes about all the benefits of coming to Israel. Now you're going to tell me if people come, if they're not doing what they're supposed to do, it's bad for them? Yes. Why? Because Israel is considered the palace of the king. Meaning God himself. It's where his presence was. Right? We're seeing clear as day. But a person sins in the land, it's 10 times worse if you sin outside the land. Why? Because you're in the palace of the king. If you sin outside the land, it's also bad. Right? Let's make clear. If it's forbidden, it's forbidden. But the fact you're doing it in God's backyard, as the commentaries say about what happened to Sodom, got wiped out because God said, I had enough. Doing it right in front of my face. It's one thing you're far away. You're doing whatever you're doing somewhere. Okay, still forbidden. Still going to be payback, but not if you do it in my backyard. So anyone who comes to live in the land, you got to set your priorities right. You got to do what God wants. Punishment's much more severe. My Rebbe went to Rav Mordechai Pogromansky, Zecher Tzadik Livrocha, tells the Ilui to get a blessing that he was coming to live in the land. Pogromansky really didn't want to give him a blessing. He kept talking to him, and finally he said, I'm not on a level to go there. Think about every time you sin in the palace of the king. And what if you saw someone be Machal Shabbos, someone desecrate Shabbos in the palace of the king? He said, I couldn't do it. I wouldn't be able to withstand it. Rabbi Chana Wasserman, Hashem Yikam Damoy, God should avenge his blood. Brings down in his book, Epics of the Messiah, small pamphlet really, all things took Jews away from Judaism. One of the things he says over there is that if there's desecration of Shabbos and other things in the land, then there's no mitzvah to go there. Meaning, if their goal, which certainly secular Zionists, that was their goal, is to uproot Torah, to make it a Jewish state or a state of Jews that has nothing to do with Torah, that's bad. So Rav Yochanan said, if the goal is to uproot Torah, no mitzvah to live there. None. It's pretty strong. Because he understood that the Jewish nation is not a nation without Torah. You can't just have the land and mean nothing. And it has no significance. The land is holy because God's presence was here. Even though God's presence left and then we're in hiddenness now, it's still holy. So we have to realize what's going on here. And that, there's a classic struggle between the religious and the non-religious. Because the non-religious, they're happy that Tel Aviv should be like the whole country. Free, open, non-Shabbos observant, all these other things. Don't tell me what to do, that's kfiyat datit. Religious coercion. But in the end, it's to their benefit. Because when you spit in God's face in his backyard, the repercussions can't even imagine. So anyone listening, you're not going to uphold what God wants in the land, don't come. And anyone out there who doesn't have the desire to come because, for argument's sake, because you don't care. We're not talking about practical issues, about livelihood and family. We're talking about people who don't have these issues and still don't come. And what's the reason? Because they don't want to. They're not interested in coming. And that's a problem. That's the galus mentality. So I want to remind everyone I have 2 question and answer sessions every week. Tuesday and Thursday, 10 o'clock in the morning, New York time, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, Israel time. I have a class on duties of the heart, doing Shar Bitachon, the gate of faith in God, every Tuesday night, 9 o'clock New York time. Also, I have conversion class as well. So anyone interested in any of these, you can send me a text, Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism. You can send me an email, rabbichaimkoffman@gmail.com, RABBIChaimkoffman@gmail.com. I want to thank everyone for listening, and everyone have a great Shabbos.